Hello everyone, this is Aaron Heldreth and we're going to be going over a 6th grade science lesson about cell structure and function. To begin, all living things are made up of cells, which is the smallest unit that can be said to be alive. So all organisms are either going to be single-celled organisms, unicellular, or have more than one cell and be called multicellular. So with single-celled organisms, first, they're obviously made up of just a single or one cell. Usually, they're too small to see and you need a microscope, so they can't be seen just with the naked eye, and they function on its own. Some examples of single-celled organisms are algae, so like all the green stuff that you see out in the, in the water, in the ocean, or by lakes. So like here would be one example of a big algae pool from an overhead satellite view. This is what algae would look like underneath a magnifying glass. And then here's just an up-close look of algae kind of swirling around inside of some water. Another example of a single-celled organism would be yeast. So here's what it would look like close up. If you could see each little piece here would be like one little piece of yeast. This is what a pile of yeast would look like if it were all together. Here's what it would look like underneath a microscope. And I actually put in a picture here of some bread rolls because yeast is what's used to help make the bread rise. So inside of yeast, what it uses to eat as its food is sugar. So then as it eats that sugar, then it expands, and that's how you actually get your bread to rise. Another example of a single-celled organism would be a bacteria. So that's like what can grow on your cheese if it goes bad. So you can see here this would be the cell wall, and then each one of these individual little pieces would all play their part in that cell being able to provide for its own functions. So here's some examples of multi-celled organisms. So we have animals like an elephant, birds, we have human beings or us, insects like a grasshopper, and even plants like this flower right here. So examples of multi-celled organisms. So here are some examples of plant cells. So this would be a cross-sectional view of a plant cell. If you were actually able to take a cell from a plant and cut it in half and look at it, this is what you would be, or how you would be looking at it. So again, this would be your cell wall, cell membrane, and all the different pieces that allow this particular cell to do what it needs to do. This view would be just like a quarter cut out, so you can look inside like a three-dimensional view of what the cell is doing and how it's doing it. This view is kind of a combination of the two. So it's kind of like the cross-sectional view as this one, but it also gives a little bit of the three-dimensional view that you can see from the nucleus and nuclei, the center part of the cell. Another example of a multiple cell organism would be that found in animals. So again, here's a simpler view of just your flat angled view to look at it. And then again, inside of here would be like your quarter cutout view, so you can get the three-dimensional view, so you can see each of the different pieces, the cell membrane being the outside, your nucleus being the center part of your cell here, and so on. You can see each of the different individual pieces that make up that cell. Another example of a multiple cell organism would be for humans. So I liked this demonstration here on this slide because one, it gives you the cross-sectional view here where you can see how it would look just from the side. Then again, you have your quarter cutout so you can get a three-dimensional view, and it also highlights some of the different cells. So here you would have, say, a red blood cell or a bone cell, muscle cells. So these, like this is kind of highlights one of the main differences between single cell and multiple cells. Your single cells are going to be able to perform functions such as these all inside of one cell inside of itself. But for a multi-celled organism such as human beings, we have different types of cells to perform different functions, such as in our blood or in our muscles. I hope everybody enjoyed the presentation. Please let me know if you have any further questions.